Greetings out there, and welcome for another edition of a Spooktober Dappers Playhouse. Day 7, I believe. One straight week of testing out your drawer capacity. That's right. I hope you didn't go through too many of them. I know this inflation's got them up quite expensive these days. So, you might want to consider diapers. I'm only fooling. Please like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Big ups and thank yous to new subscribers. I appreciate it. This little channel's growing nicely. I think it's fair I should let y'all know we are in the eye of another hurricane. So I think tomorrow will be good, but Wednesday might be questionable. So keep the playhouse and whatever thoughts you can. Whatever positive thoughts you can. Hell, whatever negative thoughts you can too. I don't mind, as long as you're thinking of us. So without further ado, let's get to the spooky. Away we go.
Does anyone have any idea what's flying over Wichita right now? I just was on a walk and I saw these out to the west, and I thought they were birds, balloons at first. But they're moving in a perfectly straight line with no flapping or anything like that, so not a clue what they could be. They're flying very smoothly though.
It looks like nothing but a dirty screen or a dirty sky. It looks frozen. What am I seeing here? I see one bird leaving. I'm not sure about that at all. Maybe clean your lens.
The night terror at home. You're not going to believe this, but there was a night when everything felt just wrong. You're not going to believe this, but the shadows in my living room seemed to have a life of their own. You're not going to believe this, but the creaking of the floorboards sounded like whispers calling my name. You're not going to believe this, but my phone was dead, and all I could hear was the ticking of the clock. You're not going to believe this, but I kept feeling like I was being watched from the dark corners. You're not going to believe this, but when I looked outside, the street was completely empty, not a soul in sight. You're not going to believe this, but then I heard a soft knock on my door, just once, echoing in the silence. You're not going to believe this, but I felt an icy chill run down my spine as I approached the door. You're not going to believe this, but as I looked through the peephole, all I saw was darkness. You're not going to believe this, but then I heard a voice, softly calling my name.
So do you want to know what happened next? Like for part 2, if you dare.
We're probably not going to believe it either way. And you're not going to believe this. I apologize. I did not see that one ahead of time. Let's just go past that part.
I do like it. Good job, buddy. Al, how old are you? How old are you? Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more of how you passed away? Snake? I wonder if that's why I had the dreams about the snakes last night. Oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. What kind of... Can you tell me your name? You're tired? Can you tell me your name? Al? Like Alan? Al, did you pass away in the 1900s?
Piece of junk, yo.
The early 1900s? Oh, yeah? I feel like you passed away a while ago. Was it like... Did you pass in the 1920s? I swear to God, I just heard like a girl. Was that you? Ellen, can you show me your real voice again?
Open trash can. Insert all that junk.
I was born, raised, and still live in the Appalachian Mountains. If you live here, you know unexplainable things happen. Today's story is from a follower. This follower said being raised in the Appalachian Mountains they never really experienced much. However, they'd always been aware of the rules since their family had been experiencing weird things for generations. So one night when this follower was in their late teens, they were hanging out with three of their friends when all of a sudden Theo suggested they should go outside. It was around 11 p.m. at night, and they all stupidly agreed. Chris begged them to stay inside because he just didn't feel allowed about them going out. Along with their friend group, he was the one who always thought cautiously and never wanted to put himself in danger. However, they ignored his warnings and they actually persuaded him to come along with them. His followers said they really wished they had listened to their friend that night. They all brought flashlights since it was dark and they began slowly walking down the trails. Nothing felt eerie due to all the loud insect sounds and animals were running around everywhere. Until unexpectedly, everything looked totally silent. The animal sounds and the insects completely stopped. Their friend James, who was in the front of the line, paused while the silence continued. At this moment, they were all stopped in their tracks and just turned to look at one another. Theo confidently walked up to James to see him with a straight, stone-cold face. He was staring into the trees in front of him, and he put his hand on Theo's shoulder to stop him from going any further. We felt a gust of wind and heard this inhuman, blood-curdling scream coming from the trees in front of us, and everyone just stood there in absolute utter shock. Chris lost it and ran back to the house without warning. They were all aware of the rule to remain calm, so it was incredibly unusual for him to lose it like that. The follower decided to move forward with 2 small steps, and in front of James in the trees was a tall, skinny, hairy figure who was about 7 feet tall. The follower finally decided it was time to get out of there, and they took off on their calm, at a fast pace. As they moved, they heard everyone behind them slowly but swiftly begin to move. They were walking back for about 20 minutes when they heard another scream, but this time it sounded like a woman in agonizing pain. It sounded more human this time. After that whole shock, when they returned back home, they were unable to speak or really even think about what they had just experienced. So they brushed it off and went to sleep. At 6 a.m., they woke up to a loud banging on the door. It was Chris, but something was off about him. Since that day, he never acted or looked the same. He eventually dropped contact with them, and they never heard from him again. Let me know in the comments if you like these stories, and we should share more of our own personal experiences.
Yeah. That one was really scary.
Guys, I'm home alone. I'm by myself and there's something at my door and I don't know what it is. What the fuck? Oh my god! I'm not gonna let you in!
Sure.
What the fuck is that? What? Oh god!
She's right. What is it, E.T.?
Oh god.
Wow.
Please no!
What do you think, El?
I've heard from people in the Pentagon that the buzzword in the secret of secrets in the Pentagon is the Sumerian gods are returning, and that's what they're referring to as that whole area that Peter.
Wow. Can you repeat
Yeah.
that again,
Wow.
just in case anybody missed it? The buzzword
In the Pentagon, and the military circles that are in the know about the cover-up here, they kind of in whisper tones talk about the return of the Sumerian gods, and they're talking about the what we would call aliens or fallen angels returning.
Very interesting. But spooky.
The first reading of Terrifier 3 had 9 people walk out during the controversial opening scene, and 1 person even vomited leaving the theater. It's reported that
Give
2
me a
more people
break.
also left during the movie due to the gore, but not during the opening scene. It is so intense that they're actually putting warnings outside of the theater. This film contains extreme violence and excessive gore. This is not shocking to me. Once they said that the actor who plays Art the Clown, David Howard Thornton, actually nearly vomited on set while they were filming the movie,
What a
I can
bitch.
only imagine what the audience reaction
Give me a
would
break.
be like. They have also confirmed that Terrifier 4 is in fact actually happening. I'm so excited for this. I don't know what the fate of any of the characters are in Terrifier 3 yet, but I really hope Sienna is going to be in both of them. Art the Clown has come a long way over the years. He started out in 2 short films way back in like 2008, I think it started. Then he was in the All Hallows Eve movies. Now Terrifier 1, 2, 3, and soon to be Terrifier 4. I really want to know what it is that's making people
Give me a break.
I want to know
You
what
ever
it
met
is
anybody
so badly.
in your
I
life
cannot wait.
that's literally thrown up at a movie or ran out of a movie? Got no business. Nice. He's cut off, yeah. Yeah. Transformers should not drink.
So I saw someone else do this, so I had to try for myself. Has anyone else asked Alexa about Hurricane Milton? Check it out.
Alexa, what kind of hurricane was Milton?
And this hasn't happened yet.
Hurricane Milton was an extremely powerful Category 5 hurricane that caused widespread damage across its path in October 2024.
Entertainment purposes only. Do your own research.
This story is from a nurse in Ecuador. She had finished school and they had sent her to a clinic to work overnight so that she can get her hours. So when she works overnight, it's just her, a nurse, and the doctor, and like a security guard that stays in the front just in case anything happens. She usually works the hour from 7 p.m. to 7 in the morning. And the night shift usually is very quiet. Nothing really happens until this one day where a family of mom, dad, and 2 daughters come in because a little girl had a bite on her arm. So the 2 little girls, the one with the bite mark looked like she was around 8, and the other one looked like she was around 4 years old. And the parents tell the nurse that she had gotten bit, and they weren't sure by what because they thought it was maybe by the 4-year-old, and they had been taking care of her bite mark, but it looks like it's getting infected, and they needed to see her. So she's trying to get all the information, the name, like everything. She had already seen a lot of bite marks, and that bite mark didn't look like it came from like an insect or like an animal. She just wanted to get more information from the family, but as she's trying to get the information, the other nurse that was there with her taps her on the shoulder and tells her to come outside of the room. So when she comes out of the room and she asks the nurse like, what's up, why are you bringing me out here? The nurse tells her, that's a duende mark and the duende is gonna take that little girl. And she looks at her like, are you crazy? Like, what are you talking about? What duende? Like, she's looking around like, is it here with us? And the other nurse tells her, I saw that braid on the little girl, and those are the braids that the duendes put on the little girls and mark them, and they're gonna take that little girl. The nurse was like, and I'm sure that bite mark was probably from a duende. So she's taking in everything that the nurse is telling her, and she's like, well, at the end of the day, we still need to treat the bite mark because it could be infected. And the other nurse was like, no, we need to tell them to go home. Like, they need to leave. That's how scared that nurse was that it was a duende mark and that the duendes would take that little girl. He was terrified. But the other nurse that's telling us the story is like, no, like, she needs to stay here until the doctor can see her. At the end of the day, like, that bite mark can get infected, the little girl can die. So we need her to see the doctor for that bite. And that's exactly what she did. She ended up putting the family in the room. However, the doctor was not there at that point. So she did explain to them that they were going to have to stay until the doctor came so that they can monitor the little girl. She starts talking to the parents because she wanted them to give her more information as to how this was caused or if the little girl had been acting different. And the mom was like, actually, yes, she recently started talking about a friend coming to visit her. And I thought maybe this is just an imaginary friend, like maybe she was having behavior issues or just an active imagination. She says that her daughter kept saying that she had a little friend that would come and visit her at night, but again, she just thought it was an imaginary friend because, you know, kids. So the nurse then decided to talk to the little girl and say, hey, can you tell me what happened to your arm? Are you okay? And the little girl says, oh, my friend did this to me. He got mad at me and bit me. And the nurse is like, what friend? And the little girl says, he goes every night to the house, but my mom doesn't believe me. I see him every night, but when I don't listen to him, he gets really mad at me. She said that night she didn't want him to touch her hair, so when she moved her hair away from him, the friend bit her arm. So the nurse, getting more and more curious, she's like, oh, and what does your friend look like? And the little girl was like, well, he's really small, but he doesn't have faces like us. He looks like my old neighbor. She was trying to tell him that the little thing didn't look like them. He looked like he was old from the face, and her best explanation of that was like, he looks like our old neighbor next door. The nurse also thought to herself, what if she's just like covering up for her sister? Maybe her sister did bite her, but she doesn't want to tell her parents that it was her. So again, the nurse tells the family that they're gonna have to stay here because the doctor's not in yet, but they had given her medication and they just wanted to monitor her in case she doesn't get a fever or anything like that. However, the dad, he explains how he couldn't stay overnight because he had to work the next day. So he ends up going home and the mom stayed there with her 2 girls. So when the dad was leaving, the nurse started talking to the little 4-year-old girl and she was, telling her, hey, what happened? Maybe like the 4-year-old was gonna say, yeah, I bit her. But the little 4-year-old girl was like, no, my sister has a friend and he doesn't like me. The little girl went as far as to say that her sister's little friend growls at her. But I'm also scared that he's gonna come over here looking for her. And of course the nurse was like, no, he's not gonna come here. You guys are safe here. Whoever the friend is, he will not be coming here. She said that after that, they ended up getting like another bed for the mom and the little girl. So because they also had to wait for the doctor to come in, she tells the other nurse, hey, you should go take a nap while we have time because it's calm now. We're just waiting around for the doctor to get here. So the other nurse agreed that she was gonna go take a nap in the other room. So time passes and it's very like quiet when out of nowhere the nurse that had been taking a nap comes to her and says, hey, I think someone just broke in here, there's someone here. And she was like, well, where's the security guard? Because he's usually at the front. She's like, I went to go look for him first and he's not in the front. So her concern is the family, so she goes to where the family is and she says that the room doesn't even have a door, it just has a curtain. So she says that they're in there, they can hear that the mom's asleep, they're all asleep, and when she opens up the curtain, they look at the little girl and she has 2 additional bite marks on her arm. She says that the little girl was still asleep because they had given her like medication. She was like in between awake and asleep. So they looked at each other like, what the fuck? How does she have 2 additional bite marks? So the mom hears them and she wakes up and they're like, hey, like what happened? She has additional bite marks. And the mom looks at the daughter and she's like, I don't know what happened. So the 4-year-old also wakes up listening to them, sees the additional bite marks, and she starts screaming, I told you he was gonna come and find her, I told you guys. And the mom was like, no, like don't say that, what are you talking about, you need to calm down. So because the mom was so like, what the fuck do you mean the friend was coming? So the nurses managed to calm everybody down, but the lady admits that they were terrified. I mean, they had to be the ones to like calm the situation, they were in charge, but they could not make sense of any of it. And also they couldn't even go back to sleep, so they stayed up until that doctor came. So the doctor comes in, and this doctor had been working there for years, and this clinic was like in the middle of a very, very small town, so he sees basically everybody there. And the doctor confirmed, he said that the duende was trying to take that little girl. The nurse who had just started working there, like she was kind of shocked, she was surprised, and he's like, once you start working here, you're gonna see things that may not have an explanation, but I've seen that bite mark before on other little girls. And he had to have that hard conversation with the mom, and the mom, she accepted it because what else could it have been? She was laying there next to her daughter when she got additional bite marks, didn't see anybody in the room. She had no other choice but to believe the doctor when he said that the duende had marked her daughter. So the doctor tells the mom that the only solution is to cut that braid out of the girl's hair. Actually, they cut the entire hair off of both of the little girls. He said that he had seen this before and that is what they did and it worked. But not just that, they also had to move away from their home because if they went back, the duende was going to just do it again. So the nurse says that the family actually moved away. She said that the mom and the daughters moved first and the dad had to stay there because he had to work, but eventually he did end up moving and the duende never came back for the girls. She explains that after that the doctor told her that he had already dealt with this before and it's mostly always little girls that they get infatuated with and they try to take. This story comes from a podcast called Hablemos de lo que no existe, so if you want to listen to it in Spanish, please go check them out.
What say you folks? Duendes? Yay or nay? She's about to vomit on it. It never gets old. Pork brains. Y'all see that can? Nothing like a can of pork brains. We should hit the spot. That didn't look like it. Ah, oh, that's not good. Ah, what's that smell? Yeah, let it go, Ma. Come on. I love it. Oh, come on. It's creamy. Smooth and creamy pork brains. Come on, let us slap that bowl. No, come on, man. Get a good whiff. Oh, yeah, come on. Oh, put that on a sandwich. Yeah, pork brains does about it good. Look at her shaking. Ah. What the hell did you get it for? Ain't it grand?
It's close enough, bud.
He'll be the judge of that.
Close enough, buddy.
I think he's had it with your shit.
Get out of here. Go. Go. No.
Come on now.
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Stay tuned for part 2, where he has an antler up his ass.
I lived in a haunted house, and here are one of my stories. My mom got my sister a job at the local 24-hour gas station about a mile from her house. At this time, it was like the early 90s, and we were poor, so we didn't have a car, and we would walk literally everywhere. And I mean everywhere. One night, early morning, I would say, my mom, my sister, and one of our family friends was finishing a shift. So they were walking back around, I think 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. They were walking back to the house. On the way back, my sister was hearing voices by the nearby forest or woods in that area. Now it's all developed. They have a college there and a retirement home. But before that, it was just the retirement home and like woods. So it was very, very wooded. And my sister was hearing voices in the forest, particularly voices calling her name. For the sake of the story, we'll call my sister Marianne. So there's, she'll be hearing Marianne, just all these voices from the forest. She asked my mom and her family friend, do you guys hear that? And they're like, no, we don't hear a thing. So she ignored it and kept on walking, and as she got away from the wooded area, the voices dissipated. So when they get home, my mom and the family friend decided to stay outside just chatting about the workday, shitty customers, as you do to me too. And my sister decided to go inside and just, get ready to go to sleep, basically. She walked into the living room, and she's about to go up the stairs to her bedroom, and she sees our old family cat, our beloved cat, Pensha, sitting at the top of the stairs. And she's just staring into my sister's bedroom. My sister's like, hey, Pensha, come down here. What are you staring at? And the cat would not break eye contact with whatever she was looking at in my sister's bedroom. And I believe at this point in time, it was a long time ago, but I believe at this point in time I already knew there was something up with the house. So my sister was very nervous to go upstairs and see what the cat was staring at. So she walked up the stairs, looks at the cat's still staring just hard into her bedroom. And my sister looks in her bedroom, in the middle of the bedroom, her bedroom, she sees a little old lady hunched down like kneeling down in the middle of her bedroom. So my sister obviously is in panic, and she notices that the lady has no hands. It's just where the hands would be.
Getting better.
And my sister's staring for a moment, and all of a sudden the lady just kind of turns and looks at my sister. So my sister obviously freaks out, and the lady just books it towards my sister, screaming at her in Spanish, "It is all your fault, it is all your fault. Todo es tu culpa, todo es tu culpa." My Spanish sucks nowadays. And my sister obviously closes her eyes and covers her face. After she lowers her hands, the lady's gone. The lady is no longer there. And she hears the cat hissing. She looks at the cat, and the cat is hissing, tail wide and everything, at my sister. So, of course, what does my sister do? She screams bloody murder, runs downstairs, wakes up the whole house, basically tells us what happened. That is one of several stories from that house.
So what if the old lady jumped in her?
While that was happening, I'll do this for tomorrow.
That's why the cat was hissing at her.
Outside,
She got a spirit now.
my family friend heard
She got a demon.
noises. But we'll talk about that one tomorrow.
She ain't gonna touch nothing.
Let me show you the interesting things that I bought today. Scroll if you don't like death, funerals, dead people, or dying. Most people probably wouldn't be excited for a brick, but this brick was actually hand carved and used as a grave marker temporarily until the person's permanent grave marker was installed. It even has a little note with the name and the family information on it. I think it's really beautiful, and it's kind of a way of bringing the cemetery home without doing something offensive. This is an 1890s funeral home cooling board or undertaker's table. It definitely has been used. There are some stains on it, but what's cool about it is the history. This piece came from Hamrick Funeral Home in Stanton, Virginia, which is where the first woman licensed to be an embalmer in the United States worked. Her name was Clara Fishburne Hamrick. I can't help but think, given the date and age, that she likely somehow came in contact with this, whether or not it was outdated by the time she was licensed or not. I also obviously can't help but wonder how many dead people were on this board at one point or another. The last thing I got was a piece of a cemetery fence. This is an urn. I can tell it's funerary because the urn has a flame at the top and then the wheat, signifying a very bountiful life.
Interesting.
The infamous bedroom scene in Terrifier 2 is actually based off of a real-life victim from an actual crime. When Damien, the director, was doing research for the first Terrifier, he was looking at a bunch of different medieval torture devices. That's how he came up with the kill where he had to saw a woman in half down the middle. But during this research, he actually found some pictures of Jack the Ripper victims. And one picture in particular stood out to him. It was a bunch of different body parts on a bed, and it was so graphic and the body was so torn apart, he said you couldn't even tell that it had ever been a human being. And it made him think, what would have had to happen to this body to get it to that point? And he basically reverse engineered that thought into what would Art the Clown do to get someone to look like that. And that is how we got the bedroom scene in Terrifier 2. To make the bedroom scene even more terrifying, the way that they filmed it was they used a dummy prop. So when they were cutting into her, obviously they're not cutting into the real actress, but it looks kind of fake to the audience. But then all of a sudden the shot switches to the real actress sitting there, moving around, talking and moaning during the scene, which makes it a little bit more creepy. It adds an uncanny valley effect, and I love the practical effects in horror movies. I'm very excited for Terrifier 3.
There's someone is. And what do you know, folks? Just like that, we've come to the end of another spooky playhouse session. Well, once again, I appreciate it. Thank you very much for watching. Any of the comments you could give would be greatly appreciated. Let me know your feelings on some of these. Start up a little witty banter. If not, I'll catch you tomorrow. You know I love doing it, especially in October. So we'll keep it spooky and creepy. And you guys, if you could, if you can't be good, be bad. And remember, you're never too old to play. I'll catch y'all on the flip side.